First, we'll start with an interview with Councilwoman Rosie Mendez, who represents New York City's 2nd Councilmanic District, which covers the Lower East Side, the East Village, Gramercy Park, Rose Hill, Kips Bay, and the southern part of Murray Hill, a lot of different neighborhoods. Well, welcome and thank you for coming to Inside Nueva York.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. Why don't we start by you briefly telling people who really is Rosie Mendez?
Well, I'm a native New Yorker. I was born and raised in Williamsburg, made my way across the river, actually commuting to go to NYU. And while I was there, I noticed a diverse group of people who were getting arrested, who were protesting the university, who was giving me a great education. One of those people was Margarita Lopez, my predecessor. But what fascinated me was that they were Asians, blacks, whites, Latinos, and they had one common cause, that NYU wasn't being fair. So I really got involved in that, started reading more on it. Eventually, from Williamsburg, I worked with a lot of those activists and met them, eventually moving to the Lower East Side and fighting other social struggles there in the Lower East Side.
Now, you worked for the Councilwoman,
yes,
okay,
I did.
Margarita Lopez, and you also had various other kinds of community organizing, community activist jobs over time, also working for legal services, representing poorer folks, and so on and so forth. How did that prepare you for what you encountered in the city council?
Well, it prepared me a lot, because what I saw as a little girl growing up in the projects was a lot of injustice.
Which projects, by the way?
Williamsburg houses.
Okay.
Was a lot of injustice, particularly when I used to travel from Williamsburg to near Coney Island to go to school. A lot of us, the kids of color on the train, got treated different from other kids, because you saw a group of kids together and the police would hover around and watch us. As a Latina, as a young woman, I was treated differently because I was Latina, because I was young, and then because I was a lesbian.
Okay.
So fighting injustice became something that became a necessity. And when I became a tenant organizer, I was helping tenants get basic things, heat, hot water. I decided to go to law school, helping tenants, stopping their evictions. And in the city council, I have continued to strengthen housing laws and put more funding into programs like legal services, put more programs into the immigrant opportunities initiatives, and seeing problems that are systemic and then trying to get funding to address those problems.
You know that there's a lot of skepticism about politicians, and now you qualify as a politician. If only a few years ago you didn't, you qualify now. And there's a rage against incumbents right now. And even particularly in the Latino community, there's a weariness and a kind of just a pulling back from politics a lot, feeling that, well, there's just too much corruption, there's too much hanky-panky, there's too much funny business going on the part of Latino politicians, many of whom started out for sure, not all, but some, started out for sure with really good intentions. And then something happens along the way. Why isn't that going to happen to Rosie Mendez?
Because I was raised with some core values, because I have great community surrounding me, so every time I waver on whether I do something that's expedient or something that's politically correct, all those voices come back and tell me, you need to do this. You know, and it's the obligation of the people to question their leaders. So I go out every day, they see me in the street, they either say hello to me or they ask me about how I voted on something or what can I do to help them on a certain issue. And that's my obligation to them to explain that to me.